Todd Lamars. I'm the creator and producer of the show. And we're here tonight to celebrate work. Ooh. That's the right attitude. The bad and the ridiculous. So we're going to try to cover all the bases. How many people here are still working? They're not retired? Wow. A lot of people. How many people would retire if they could afford it? Okay. Well, tonight we're going to have some fun with the whole concept of work, which has changed radically over the last, 20, 30 years. We also have a mailing list on the desk where you came in. If you're not on our mailing list, please get on it so that we can let you know what's coming up. The next show is in August, and it's Family Fun Time. And it's the show that we do every year because everybody has family stories, the good, the bad, and the ridiculous. And it's something that we like to celebrate every year. And then after that, I Will Survive. Yeah, survival stories. And the last show of the year will be the holiday show about the winter holidays. Because this is the 10th anniversary of Tell It, going for 10 years. Yes, thank you. Thanks to the amazing talent that I've had the pleasure and honor of presenting, and of course for all of our enthusiastic audiences that have kept coming and keeping us going. So because it's the 10th anniversary, I decided to go back to the very first year of the show. So the themes this year are all from the very first year that we did the show, and Work was the very first show that we ever produced. Didn't know what we were doing. With my producing partner, Misha, who some of you may remember. And I told this story in the last show. I was at the Kinko's, FedEx Kinko's, printing programs, the night of the show. It was a late night show. It was an 11:30 show. Because we were at a theater, and they produced plays, and we had to go on after the plays. So I'm there. This is Los Angeles, where people go to bed at 10. Sometimes. But I was there printing out programs, and it started to rain. And I thought, oh man, no one's going to be there. But instead, the gods favored us, and we had a packed house and kicked off the show. And here we are 10 years later. Thank you all. All right, so to get this party started, I'm going to introduce our first storyteller. He's wonderful. I always enjoy having him on the show. He's done this show several times. He loves telling and listening to great stories. He's a multiple Moth Slam winner, and he's told stories at curated shows all over Los Angeles and in New York. And here at Tell It, he's currently looking for representation. So pay attention. Please welcome the fabulous Stuart Jacobson.
Thank you.
You just leave that.
You're good. Okay. Can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Sometimes what appears to be an ideal situation is not always ideal as it appears. And I say this qualifying that right now you look at me and I'm happier than I've ever been. And now, at 8.5, 9 years ago, my wife and I moved from Camarillo to Los Angeles, to Echo Park specifically. And I didn't know how miserable I was, until I left it. It was like leaving Camarillo was a cloud, a dark cloud that had existed over me, and living a life of ignorant misery. And I came to Los Angeles, and all of a sudden the air was clear and it was sunny. Yeah. And now, I have to tell you, I was living in Los Angeles, in Camarillo, because my wife was a doctor, and she was lured into a good practice opportunity in the nearby town of Oxnard, which is not as bad as it sounds. And we were in Camarillo, we were really fishes out of water. For example, most of the other doctors there were like country club Republicans, and we're not. And also, Camarillo is a place that's described as, quote, a great place to raise children, unquote, which is really a euphemism for, quote, fucking pathologically dull, unquote. So we moved to Los Angeles, moved to Echo Park. We wanted to be in Echo Park because we liked the stairways, We like the fact that we can rub elbows with people, every demographic. We were politically like-minded people. We were near the Arts District downtown at Disney Hall. This is what we wanted. We could have moved almost anywhere. And so we bought a fixer-upper, and we proceeded to fix it up. And also we proceeded to deplete our savings and investment and our retirement accounts, fixing it up. And my wife had retired to being a doctor, and I still work part-time as a trust administrator. I mean, office is a desk in our house. It's that and a cell phone are all I really need. And this is the first time in our long marriage that we were together all the time. And now we were getting on each other's nerves. Or let me put it this way. I, being the main character in this story, was, without intent or motivation, getting on my wife's nerves. And she wanted me to get out of the house. Now, at the same time, we were doing the construction. We moved to the building just to the south of us. We were lucky we were able to rent next door. And that was lucky. But unluckily, we had a neighbor just on the other side of us in a triplex, a woman called Allison with a Y. Now, Allison was like in her young 40s. She had, in the late 90s and the early aughts, she had a lucrative and successful career in a soap opera and in a TV series. And since then, like, her career sputtered. And she was just, unfortunately, just another bitter has-been, a bitter Hollywood has-been. And she had a menagerie of animals in her house. She would talk to them in this childish voice that if she talked to a child that way, the child would like cover their ears. And I just felt so sorry for these poor animals. And she referred to herself as mommy to the animals and referred to her mother as grandma to the animals. And I just, it was just who she was. She took an instant dislike to us. And she demonstrated this by scowling at us, screaming at us, and just issuing these just awful, nasty screeds, horrible letters to us. And these letters, these venomous poison pen letters, should be written in this childish script, these loopy letters, and curly cues, and she would dot the I's with hearts, and these letters were slanderous, and just, she accused me of being like Donald Trump. She called me an entitled white guy, and they were just, they were awful, okay? So, so anyway, my wife wants me out of the house, and she says to me that maybe I should go register with Central Casting. And I said, is this a joke? I said, there's no such thing as Central Casting. It's just like the end of a cliche, he's right out of Central Casting. But no, she was right. There is something called Central Casting. And I went and signed up for it. And now, just let me give you an example of how ingrained this cliche was in my head. He's right out of Central Casting. Later on, I was an extra in a series called Gaslit. And I played a reporter in a crowd that was in New York City, being held back by 2 New York City cops. And these guys were playing the cops. One was a tall, skinny guy with thick eyebrows and a lantern jaw, and his sidekick was a short guy bald guy with a round face. And I took a look at them and I said, God, these guys are right out of Central Casting. Duh. Anyway, so what they do is I got called right away. I got called to be on a cop show, on a police show, and I go to the studios, and I find my way to the soundstage. They check me in, and they. One other thing I forgot to say is that when my wife said to go to Central Casting, I said, that's acting. I'm not an actor. Actors they study emotions, they study dialogue, they study accents, they study movement. They do Shakespeare, they do Euripides, they do Tennessee Williams. They go to summer stock, they go to auditions, they rehearse. They can ride a horse. And I can't do any of those things. I can't insult them by claiming I'm an actor. She says, don't worry. They'll have you sitting in a cafe. They'll have you, just walking up and down the street. You'll be background. So I said, it's okay. Again, so I'm at the set, And they check me in, and they send me to just a holding area. And my wife had warned me about this. She said to me, you could probably get some billable time done while you're waiting, which is not a bad idea. So I'm in the holding area, and sure enough, there's a couple of hours of billable time done. I'm talking to my new peer group. I ate way too many pistachio nuts. And I'm called to the set. And the set is a urban police station. So the second, which is the assistant director, the AD, that's in charge of dealing with the extras, he comes over to me and sits me down on a hard bench and says to me, "You're an angry citizen who has been sitting here, being kept waiting by the desk sergeant, and he's getting more and more and more pissed off." So I said to him, "Angry? I'm happier than I've ever been in my life." So he says to me, "Just act angry." He said, "Act? I'm not an actor. Actors, they study Shakespeare. They learn emotions. They can ride a horse." And he just cuts me off. He says, "Just find something in your life that you can channel into anger." And he walks away muttering and shaking his head. So I go through my mental Rolodex, and in no time, I come up with Allison's letters. And when they first came, I was sort of bemused and bewildered by them, and we chalked it up to the fact that Allison, she's got more problems than we do, fuck her, basically. But now I revisited the letters, starting to think about them and take them personally. I said to myself, who the fuck is she to compare me to Trump, say I'm an entitled white guy, And I started working myself up. And in no time, I was pounding my knees and kneading kneading my thighs. I was getting so into this that in between takes, I was still doing it. People were afraid to approach me. They were afraid to come near me. And then finally, when the last take was taken and it was all done, the second, they get us off the set, and he comes over to me, says to me, you did a really good job of acting. I'm really happy with you. And, I gotta say, when it comes to flattery, I'm a cheap drunk. And I was beaming, and I said to myself, maybe I am an actor. And then immediately I sobered up. I said, I'm not an actor, but I'm a damn good extra. Thank you.
We have two guests that just arrived. Come on down. There are some seats right here in this row, right here, down here. Is that okay? Okay, great. Awesome. Central casting, yes, it does exist. I heard those two words for decades because my father and one of my uncles, they were both extras, background players, and stand-ins. And they worked with like every major star in Hollywood way back in the day and a lot of TV shows. So I hear about central casting and central casting. If you get a message from central casting, be sure to write everything down. Really, yeah, when they retired, at that point in their lives, they were the oldest, still working background players and stand-ins in Hollywood. So I am, I guess, Hollywood royalty. Please hold your applause. No, they're amazing, and the stories that they told and getting to visit sets and when I was a kid and all that. And I wanted to be in show business. But here I am on Pico Boulevard. Okay. No, this is great. Thank you, Stuart. That was. You don't still do it, do you? Do you ever do?
I still get availability requests.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Okay. I do too, for all kinds of nationalities and races and things. I can't play a black circus performer who rides a horse and, it's weird stuff. Okay. Our next storyteller, you see her here at Tell It. If you come to our shows, she is a Los Angeles-based writer who moved to LA with one suitcase and a hat box. She never looked back. She is the producer and host of Revealed, a true and personal storytelling show, which is a great show. It takes place in Glendale the first Sunday of every month. Ask her about it. It's terrific. She is also the co-host of the Telling Mental Health podcast. I did this podcast not too long ago because I take care of my 96-year-old mother who has dementia. And I told a story about her and we had a whole discussion. It's really a terrific podcast and it deals with mental health. She most recently was awarded a writing grant through the DeGroot Foundation and was the 2023 recipient of the New Voices Fellowship through Lighthouse Writers Workshop. When she's not writing or sharing her stories on stage, you'll find her spending time with friends and teaching writing to elementary and middle school students. So please welcome the lovely Erica Blumfield.
When I was a kid growing up in Philadelphia, all I dreamed about was becoming an actress on Broadway. So as soon as I graduated high school, I moved to New York City. I got a piece of advice from a taxi driver. He said, in New York City, be like an exclamation point, not like a question mark. And I took this advice to heart. And I started my New York journey with enthusiasm and excitement and without doubt. One of the things that was essential was finding a job to support myself in one of the most expensive cities in the world. The only problem was I didn't have any job experience. But this was like pre-Google, so I made a fake resume. And somehow I landed a waitressing job because I figured I'm an actress, you know, it's a rite of passage to be a waitress. And it turned out that I was the worst waitress in the world. And the manager didn't hold back from telling me so. Oh my God, every night he was like, "You're so stupid, stupid, stupid." And finally, I just couldn't take it after a few weeks and I quit. And I felt on top of the air, you know, liberated. I was walking through the East Village on my way home. But then it hit me, oh my God, I was so lucky to have found that job. What was I gonna do? And that's when I saw it. Cafe 107. It was a quaint little place, the type of place you would find down a beaten path in Florence. And it had these huge picture windows and little twinkling lights around them. And I peeked inside and there were only 20 or so little tables lit by candlelight. And I walked in. And I was feeling much more like an insecure question mark than a confident exclamation point. And there was this gorgeous mahogany bar, and I crossed the restaurant, and there was this woman standing behind this bar, and she looked very regal. And I said to her, "Excuse me, may I talk to the manager?" And she said, "I am the manager." And I said, "Look, my name is Erica, and I am the worst waitress in the world, but I'm a really hard worker, and I promise you, if you just show me, I will be the best waitress." She looked me up and down, and she said, "Be back tomorrow. Bring pens." So I showed up the next day, and under her guidance, I became the best waitress. One time, Liza Minnelli was getting trashed in the restaurant, as she does, why not? And she was chain smoking cigarettes, which was illegal, and I was the one who was able to talk her down and get her to stop smoking. The Village Voice came in and wrote about the friendliest waitress in the East Village, me. And I'm semi-proud of this and not so proud, but I could sell the last piece of the crusty old cappuccino mousse pie to anyone, even amongst gorgeous, fresh, new pies. And so I just loved my 107 family, but after 4 years of working there, I had started feeling like I wasn't pursuing my dream fully at all, really. I had so much anxiety and nerves about auditioning. I was really holding myself back, and when I did go, I just wasn't landing the auditions. And so it was this one really busy night at the restaurant, and people were lined up around the block, and there was this wiry professor type of guy who had been sitting at one of the tables for hours. and we really needed the table. So I politely asked him, like, oh, I'm sorry, I need to turn the table, like it's so busy. And he did not like this. He started yelling, how dare you? How dare you treat me like this? I hope you're not expecting a tip, and like just being really rude. And I just snapped and I was like, that's it. And I slammed open the door to the restaurant and I said to him, you need to get out of here. We don't want your money. Get out. And he did as I said. And he crossed the restaurant and he walked out, and I was standing on the stoop of the restaurant with my back to everyone in the restaurant when all of a sudden he started to choke me. I could feel his hand around my neck, and everything was in slow motion. I could see 3rd Avenue, and the cabs and the cars were blurs, and the passerbys. And then survival instinct kicked in, and I hauled off and I punched him right in the gut. And he jumped back, like startled, and he just took down 3rd Avenue. And everyone was around me. Are you okay? Are you okay? And I'm like, I'm okay. I'm okay. I just need a cigarette. And so I standing outside of the front of Cafe Centosette, and I'm smoking my cigarette and I'm crying and I'm talking to the sky, saying, what have I done? I've blown my dream. I have not made it as an actress. What's going to happen to me? When I heard this little voice, excuse me, excuse me. And I turn and I see this little old woman in a house dress and slippers, and she's looking at me intently. And she says, you must be an actress. And I said, yeah. She said, I used to want to be a dancer. And at that time, there were these midnight booze cruises up and down the Hudson. I danced till my feet were dead. And then she looked at me more intently and she said, but then someone discouraged me. Don't let anyone discourage you. You hear me? And she walked off. And as she was walking off, she continued, you hear me? Don't let anyone discourage you, especially the CIA. Those motherfuckers. And so the next day, there had been an opportunity that I had my eye on to audition for a very esteemed theater company that thousands of people would have been auditioning for, and I put my headshot and resume in, and it turned out that I actually was accepted, and I had one of the most amazing experiences of my life down there at the theater. I'm still friends with the people, 2 of the women that I was in plays with down there for 25 years, and I became a star. In my mind, and for that crazy little angel, I didn't let myself be discouraged. And that night, I held my head high. I walked back into the cafe like the exclamation point that I was. Thank you.
Oh, it was so cool. Rating table, jeez, I did it for off and on for 15 years. Oh man, I was always lucky to be in cool places, with cool people. But sometimes the customers would really test your nerves, test your stamina, because when people are hungry, their personalities change. But I was always the one that they think, Pablo, can we take table 6 because they're really being assholes. It's like I'm the therapist here, I'm going to take care of them. But I managed to do it. I think it was just because I would just agree to everything they said. Everything they said. It's just, oh yeah, oh sure, yeah, oh it's terrible, yeah, I'll go get another one. Oh yeah, no problem. I never fought with them. So you fight with them, It's worse. All right. Thank you, Erica. Now, our next storyteller is a twice Emmy-nominated writer, director, producer, most notably for her PBS documentary, Legacy of the Hollywood Blacklist, and her current film, The Girls in the Band. Her screenplay, The Audition, won last year's Best Short Screenplay Award at the Idlewild Film Festival, and she has directed network TV, off-Broadway theater, and at the Groundlings Improv Theater. Her short stories have been published in numerous print and online journals, and she's a sought-after ghostwriter for celebrity memoirs. Oh, do you have notes that we can look at? Yes. Tonight's reading of her story, 3 Nights with Lady Day, is Judy's first venture into the world of spoken word. And this is her first time at Tell It, so please give her a warm welcome. Judy, take it. Is that good enough?
I think so.
Pablo,
Let's see.
move the mic just a
So
little.
being as it's my first time, I'm gonna read.
Point it a
Maybe
little.
next time I won't have to.
That's it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I was born in East Los Angeles. They called it the melting pot. I was specifically from Boyle Heights. And they called it the melting pot because it was a group of people from all different races and religions who lived together, not always happily, but who were united by a common thread. We were all piss poor. And we learned at an early age that when you're poor, people look down on you. And the only way to rise out of that dire circumstance was through crime or showbiz. I chose showbiz. And so did my high school sweetheart, Jules Chaikin. He was a musician, a trumpet player. And I was a dancer. And with our talents, we were going to fight our way out of the barrio. So shortly after we graduated high school, we got married. That's what people did back then. The truth is, it didn't work out too badly. Right away, Jules got a job offer from the Riviera Hotel in Las Vegas to be the lead trumpeter in their show orchestra. So we moved to Las Vegas. And I got a job dancing in the Thunderbird Hotel. We were 2 poor kids who were earning a living doing what we loved. We thought we had conquered the world. It didn't take very long for us to realize that Vegas was not really for us. That tacky lifestyle, the constant clanging of the slot machines and those high rollers throwing away their money like it was dirt, that wasn't for us. We were artists. We needed culture. We wanted art galleries, museums, jazz clubs. Vegas was a little shit town that didn't even have a movie theater. So, after about 6 months, we couldn't take it anymore. We packed up our little Volkswagen Beetle and headed back to the real world, Hollywood. We were only home about 2 weeks when my husband got a call. Would he come back to Vegas for a 3-week gig? No way. We were done with that town. Then we learned the gig was with Billie Holiday. The great Billie Holiday. So once again, we packed up the little Beetle and made the slow climb back up the I-15 to that fake oasis in the desert. So we rented a little house, a little 2-bedroom cinder block tract home. And the day after we arrived, the band was set for a rehearsal at the El Rancho Vegas Hotel. Now, if you don't know the El Rancho Vegas, it's one of the old mob hotels, one of the original mob hotels. And Billie was married to a guy named Louis McKay, who was mobbed up. And that's why she was playing there. So anyway, it's around 4 o'clock and we're at the rehearsal. The band is on stage. They're running down the charts. We're waiting for Billy to arrive. And I'm sitting out in the back of the room hiding, trembling with excitement because I am about to catch my first glimpse of the great Billie Holiday. And then she arrives through the kitchen doors. Here she is, a world-renowned jazz artist of the highest caliber, being treated like kitchen help. I was outraged. I wanted to scream at somebody. Billie, on the other hand, took it in stride. This was nothing new to her, obviously. She came in, sat down next to the piano player, and started running down the charts. No fuss, no bother, no attitude. She was just great. So when the rehearsal was over, my husband Jules gestured for me to follow him. Where are you going? You want to meet her, don't you? Yeah. So he leads me into the dressing room, and there she is, sitting at her dressing table with a mirror with those bare bulbs on it, and they made her face look really harsh and worn. And on her lap was the tiniest little light-haired chihuahua, so delicate that it seemed to be an outward manifestation of her inner fragility. We were introduced, and for some unknown reason, I felt I had to apologize for being white and blonde. I was blonde at the time. And so I made some stupid little joke about how her little dog and I had the same color hair, only the dog's was natural and mine wasn't. And when my lame joke got no response, I felt an urge to repeat it. That's when Billy looked at me in the mirror and said, I heard you the first time. I was mortified. I had no idea how to respond. So I smiled at her in the mirror and laughed at my own foolishness. And to my surprise, she looked back at me and laughed. And for some reason, in that moment, we clicked. Here I was, an inexperienced 20-year-old kid with a lot of high-minded ideas about art and life. And there she was, a world-renowned talent at the top of her game, who had more experience in tragedy and triumph under her belt than I would ever know. And yet in that moment, she recognized me as a kindred spirit. And we became friends. And after that, we'd hang out in her dressing room between shows, smoke a joint, shoot the breeze. Sometimes musicians from other clubs would stop by, and she would always introduce me. This is my friend, Judy. Oh, well, you know how that made me feel. Anyway, about 2 weeks into the gig, Billy's husband, Louis, pulled me aside and asked me a favor. My buddy and I want to go fishing, but I don't want to leave Billy alone. You think she could stay with you guys for a couple of days? Oh, yeah, sure. And the next day, Billie Holiday shows up at our house, carrying her little dog Peppy in one hand, and despite the desert heat, a heavy New York fur coat in the other hand. And Louis gives her some reassuring words about his return, and he leaves. And there we are, with Billie Holiday in our living room. What do you say? What do you do? Would you like a bagel? Fortunately, Billie put us all at ease. She just wanted to take a nap. It was the way that she started preparing for the showtime. And in that regard, let me tell you, Billie Holiday was a total pro. She knew what she was doing every minute. She would step on stage in that icy spotlight with that white gardenia in her hair and close her eyes and very softly begin to sing. And you could see how she made that audience lean forward in their seats, made them listen. In that cavernous showroom, she recreated the feel of a 42nd Street jazz club. And she did that 3 shows a night, 6 nights a week. When the last show ended, about 2 a.m., we'd head back to the house. Some of the guys would come over, and I'd go in the kitchen and fix something to eat while Billie and the guys hung out in the living room, swapping stories. From the kitchen, I could hear her serrated voice reading bits and pieces, recalling bits and pieces from her past. You remember that trombone player from Chicago? What was his name? Skinny guy with a conch, Roy something, played with Dizzy's band. Well, anyway, one night, this guy Roy, we're all up at Minton's, and she would go on like that, with half-remembered stories until she finished the pint of gin that was her nightly ration. She liked to talk about her time in prison, how she learned to make vodka from potato peels from the kitchen garbage, and how clever she and the other girls were at getting around the prison rules. She never said anything mean about anybody. She just wanted to remember the good times. One night, Billie and I were alone in the living room, and she's sitting in one of those black canvas sling chairs, and I'm cross-legged on the floor, rolling a joint. And she leans over and says to me, I know a song about you. Oh, yeah, I think she's pulling my leg. What song? She closes her eyes and begins to sing. If her voice can't bring every hope of spring, that's Judy, my Judy. I'm 20 years old, sitting on the cold linoleum floor of a tract house in Vegas at 3 in the morning, and Billie Holiday is singing me a love song. Not something you easily forget. On the last night of the gig, Billie had a gift for me. A signed photograph with the inscription, "To Judy, stay as fine as you are. Love, Billie Holiday." I often wondered if our friendship would have lasted, but it never got that far. On July 17, 1959, jazz great Billie Holiday died at age 44. Our friendship came and went in the blink of an eye. But in that fleeting moment, I touched greatness, and greatness touched me back. my virgin effort. The first virgin effort in a long time.
I think we'll keep her around. That was absolutely lovely. Boy, I waited on lots of celebrities and was in rooms with them at catered events and stuff, but I can't top that. I did wait on John and Yoko. John Lennon and Yoko Ono when I was working at the Old World restaurant one afternoon. It was very quiet. And they came in, it was just before he was going to be deported for this court case that he was dealing with. They came in and they wanted breakfast. And I was so nervous and I wanted to go up to the table and say something profound, something deep, something that would connect us because he was such an idol of mine. So I walked up to the table and I took a deep breath and they gave me their order. And my response was, "How would you like your eggs?" That was it. Thank you, Miss Woman. God bless him. That was just lovely. Thank you so much, Judy. All right, next performer has had a varied work history, beginning at 12 as a Broadway actress, including gigs such as a dog groomer's assistant, lifeguard, behaviorist, teacher, and now mother. She's been published in Prose and Lore, memoir stories about sex work, and has volunteered as a human trafficking intervention court observer with the Red Umbrella Project in New York. She has performed with Strong Words LA and here at Tell It, so she's back again, and we're thrilled. Please welcome Tammy Mugas.
Thank you. Well, I just have to work. It's my love language. I'm teaching yoga now. It's been something I knew was my calling, to be a teacher, a guide. When I lead students, it's like not about me. I leave myself behind and I create a space for those that are practicing. I don't even have an impulse to react when a yoga practitioner farts in class. Yeah. I'm totally pro, and my karma is to serve. During my graduate work in education, I fell in love with serving as a waitress and making decent cash tips as a popular vegetarian restaurant. It was a good deal. I was a vegetarian, so these meals sustained me. And the shifts there were a respite from living at home with my mom and dad. I took pride in catering to the guests' every single dietary need. And I kept up a rapport. Didn't make it about me too much. And the job kept my body fit. I was even totally cuter back then. So I did very well as a server. But it was bitching to another waitress about money that gave me another opportunity to explore a field which centers highly on service. With going to class, all the classwork, and then coming here for a shift, it's just not worth it for me if it's going to be slow. I need a better paying job that I can do in half the time. Well, I have a friend that makes some really good money as a dominatrix. I don't think I could do that, was my initial reaction. It's really just a bunch of girls sitting around in their underwear, my friend said. The next day, I asked, "Do you think I could call your friend and ask her about that job?" Rebecca, the owner, she interviewed me in the dungeon. Now, before you go and start fantasizing about what a dungeon is, please know, it's just an entire floor of really old New York City building, and it's themed out by color. The red room, the black room, the blue room. And all rooms have St. Andrew's crosses, they have a bondage bed, couch, lots of mirrors. Except the gold room, which doesn't have a bondage bed. It had lots of mirrored closets filled with sissy pants, slut dresses, and huge high heels. Rebecca sat on my lap seductively to gauge my response, my energy. "So do you like girls, guys, both?" Bob, her husband, He went to the same Long Island high school that I did 20 years after. I was hired. All I needed was a fitting name. So the nickname for my mother's sister Barbara was Bobby. She was the biggest slut as far as I'm concerned. So Bobby it was. It was a fast 10-minute walk from Penn Station and a 6-flight walk upstairs if the shitty elevator was out again. I'd check if there were any appointments already. And if not, I'd go back downstairs, get myself a coffee and some breakfast. Some mistresses knit scarves, some open pomegranates. And all of us watched Law and Order SVU. Gung, gung. Hello, how may I help you? Was how our butch Australian phone girl answered the calls. She monitored the schedule, booked appointments, buzzed the guys in, and watched the intercom camera. She handled all the money, and she had a fat baseball bat that I know she'd be ready to use if she had to. You are welcome to masturbate, however, the matter is entirely in your own hands. It was not sex, but of course it was highly sexual, being that the mind is the biggest sex organ. Being a professional dominatrix, or pro-dom, as we call ourselves, is no sex, no fluid exchange kind of thing. Did I spit in mouths? Yeah. And golden showers? They're a pretty sought after popular menu item that garner great tips. No? Okay. Look, I never did a Brown, never did a Roman, okay? It's fine. One by one, the girls on shift would meet with the client in a consult room that was right off the elevator. Get the gist, then get the phone girl would go back in, get his selection and his money, walk out counting it, and call out something like, Bobby, black room, 2.5 hours, switch. I shadowed the experienced mistresses for the first few shifts, walking away with significant tips that matched my greatest night at the restaurant. And then I'd go on to become the top mistress there for a time. I was booked solid day and night. I did my part studying these men in power positions, sneaking off midday in between their meetings to go get their cock and balls tied up and bounced on the end of my crop. They'd bring in specialty lollipops and make them do things you don't even want to know with them. And then go walk right back into the world as if nothing had ever happened. My work was fulfilling all of the human needs. Certainty, variety, significance, connection, growth, and contribution. Oh, most importantly, lots of cash. My black leather work bag contained all the basics. You got nylon rope of various lengths. You got some soft rubber hose here. You know, you could also use that to restrain or bind leather cuffs, maybe a ball gag. My music was CDs at the time. Tears for Fears, the perfect song, Everybody Wants to Rule the World. I had nipple clamps, I had a paddle, a flogger, and depending on if the session was medical, huge dildo and butt plugs and condoms. The lube, the hand lotion, the paper towels, the gloves, and the puppy pads are all supposed to be stocked in the room already. I'd go and meet the client again in this room, in his room this time, and deliver my expectations. When you hear my heels on the floor coming back towards this room, I want you to be stripped naked on the floor and waiting for me. Do you understand? It was violent at times, but not to cause harm. I was allowing people to work out trauma from some point in their lives and allowing them to take control over it. Inevitably, I discovered some of my own boundaries only by having them crossed. And sometimes I had to learn by getting it wrong, like the financial domination client. I thought I was getting away with something by taking one $20 bill out of his fat wallet stuck inside the couch. I found it when I was cleaning. I took 120, and I didn't realize until I saw his face. I opened the elevator, he came back to get it, and he saw that fat wallet, and he was so disappointed. I went back to the girls, trying to figure out what happened, and they said, "You didn't take the whole thing? That's his deal!" I never fucking saw him again. I had care for each one of my regulars. I knew how to push all of their specific buttons. And I tied them up, I spanked them, I made them kiss my high heels. I led them on a leash into the common area for public humiliation. I even had to look at photos of their grandchildren because I also learned that that's something that a man can do immediately after he ejaculates. Look at photos of his grandkids. They paid me to be in control, but that's what they were paying for. So in that sense, I wasn't in control. What mattered to me was that I was getting the details right and creating a deeply personal experience, making people feel special. What's the big deal with Bobby anyway? What makes her so popular? An unpopular mistress once grumbled as I was cleaning my floggers and putting them back. My boss, Rebecca, she told her, "Bobby just has a really great way of making people feel really special." And at the end of 6 years in the dungeon, I was not scheduled the night of a police raid. Everyone there got arrested, except the guys, of course. I went independent for a while with my regulars, and that's a whole different story. Pablo, I'll talk to you about that soon. But I was glad for the out. I didn't know how I would ever be able to walk away from all that much money. I felt caught in between two worlds of a student teacher by day and a dom at night. I had to keep growing. I entered the sex industry with my own free will and for my own financial benefit. Where else could I learn everything about human beings like this? Thank you so much.
All right, Tammy, don't go away. I've been a bad That was awesome. It is fascinating, and I would love to do that theme, just the spectrum of sexual experience. I'll tell you one thing that I did when I was living in Mar Vista back in the 90s. I decided that I wanted to make extra money, Tammy was doing, but not as a dominatrix. I decided to do massage. And back then, do you remember the Reader? The newspaper, the Reader? You could advertise whatever thing. So I thought I was really good at it. I trained with some great masseurs in this town. I've been having massages since I was like 19. I can't live without it. So I understood the healing power of it and how amazing it was. So I decided, okay, let me try this. So I got a table and I was, gonna start this business. And everything was going fine. And what really surprised me the most was not that I would probably get hit on by my gay brothers, because let's face it, my tribe were a bunch of horn dogs. The amazing thing was that men in general are a bunch of horn dogs. I was getting all of these straight clients who wanted to take a walk on the wild side. Now, they couldn't go to a Hustler on Santa Monica Boulevard, that was too much. So they would book a massage with a gay masseur and hoping that maybe something would happen. And it was just mind-blowing. And I thought, for every one of these guys that I've met, there must be 1,000 more, But, with my brothers, it was like, okay, yeah, right, whatever. Let's wait till this is all over, and then maybe we can do something. But you put two gay guys in a room together, decent looking, and One of them's laying naked on the table, and the other one's rubbing oil all over him. But you do the math. But it worked out that I found a lot of wonderful people and from all walks of life, and it turned out to be really cool. But yeah, let's do that theme. Sexy time. Okay, we're going to take a break. There's refreshments out in the lobby, of course, and please sign up on the mailing list if you are not on it. And we'll see you back here as soon as the bathroom line clears. Thank you. Welcome back. How's everybody doing? Good? All right. Can you hear? Yeah. Great. I'm sorry. I apologize. We had a whole new mic system ready to go and it didn't work. So I'm going to figure it out for the next show. So for the next show, people are going to be really. No, it's great. It's a nice intimate space, and this is we've used it like this for the last 2 years, but it's time to, because we run the air during which I will turn off shortly. All right. So again, if you haven't signed our mailing list, please do so before you leave. There are cards out there too. You can email me if you have any questions about the show. If you would like to tell a story, then you can contact me. And what I do is I usually send out a list of dates and themes for the year in January, and then people start signing up and filling in the slots, and it does go pretty quickly. So cash helps. Not above it. Okay. So, no, if you're interested, talk to me before you go, and I can give you more details about how to get involved. All right. There's a lot of, by the way, there are a lot of storytelling shows going on all over the city. It's quite a thing here in Los Angeles. So even if you can't do my show, I can refer you to other great venues and all that. All right. So let's continue this party. And who do we have? Here we go. Okay. In the spirit of tonight's theme of work, Rich Tackenberg says that he has spent the last 20 years of his career asking people questions about their career and telling the stories of those careers to people looking to hire people. Did you get all that? Tonight, he gets to tell you a work story about his favorite interview subject, himself. Please welcome, after a long hiatus, Rich Tackenberg.
Okay, two things you have to know about me for this story. Number one, I'm at a point now where alcohol just makes me tired. Pot never did it for me. I have never been able to run far enough to get the euphoria that runners won't shut the fuck up about. My high comes from buying and turning on new Apple products. It is a very expensive addiction. But there is a euphoria that I get. It's hope and possibility and newness and quiet. When I see that thin black word hello on the screen, it is just better than anything else in the world. Second fact, I love my job. I'm very good at my job. I am dogged. I am determined. I am the get it done guy. And I love the company I'm at. I like the people I work for. They like me. I bring these two facts up because in the fall of 2017, these two weird facts collided in one night. That was the fall that, of course you all remember, the iPhone X was released. It was a flagship redesign. It was a huge deal. And it was also the first iPhone that cost $1,000. I did not have $1,000 lying around. I was still rocking an iPhone 6 because iPhones had gotten so expensive. But I had just gotten a huge promotion at work, and I decided to ask my boss if the company would buy me the iPhone X on their account because I use it for work. And he said, sure. Oh my God. Pre-sale begins. 2 days later, I get the CFO of the company, Phyllis, to personally order me an iPhone X on a Verizon account using the company credit card She's taking time to do it herself. She gets the iPhone, puts it in the cart. The phones go on sale November 7th, and the date of delivery of the phone in the cart, because we took us 2 days, was like December 13th. Whoa, 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 whoa. She says, we good? And of course the right answer is, yes, we are. But here's the thing about my addiction. The level of dopamine that I get from turning on a new gadget decreases the longer it's been out in the world and other people also have the gadget. So I need that 10 on the day to get the greatest spike of adrenaline. So I calmly explained to Phyllis, no, let's stop. I happen to know that despite the phones being sold at every year, Apple releases like 6 or 7 phones to each Verizon store that you can buy the day of, and half of them go on sale midnight that night. So if I just have the company credit card, I can order it for myself. And she looks at me and says, you do you. And I'm like, it's not going to be a problem at all. You just need to make me an authorized user on the account. You have to give me the password. You have to give me the company credit card. I need to know the billing address and the security number. It will not be a problem. So it goes on sale November 7th, 9 a.m. November 6th, my wife is going to sleep. I'm excited. I'm set everything up. I've already bought something with the credit card. I'm like, and my wife weirdly says, just don't do anything that makes them regret this decision, which is ridiculous. I don't know, whatever. Midnight, I'm on, there's no iPhones, reload, I'm reloading, 10 minutes later, boom, there are 3 iPhones for sale at the Sherman Oaks Verizon store that morning you can purchase right now. And I'm like a machine, put it in my cart, got the company credit card, submit, declined. Problem with the information. What's wrong with the information? I do the credit card number again, declined. Okay, check the mailing address, declined. It occurs to me that on the Verizon website, for some reason in the credit card information, there was no field for your name. It was just pulling the name of your account, which makes sense, except my name is Rich Tackenberg and the name on the card is Phyllis, our CFO. So this is obviously the point where you should just stop and go, well, we tried, it didn't work, better luck next time. Because that's what quitters say. I'm the get it done guy. I'm getting that hello. So I do the logical thing. I try to log on to the account as Phyllis, and because I start guessing passwords, because we always kind of the same passwords, and it's well, that one's wrong. Okay, I'm gonna try the one for our subscription. That one's wrong. And okay, now I'm locked out of the account. Okay, so that wasn't great. So let me log back in as me. I do the natural thing on my account. I'm an authorized user, but I'm just going to change the name of my account to Phyllis. That should work. That doesn't work. I figure out that I can disable Phyllis' account and make myself the primary account. That doesn't work. I delete Phyllis's account. That doesn't work. Now, there's only 2 minutes left before the cart's in my mouth, and I have no other choice. Also, I should mention at this point in my life, we had decided not to have credit cards. I only had a debit card, which has been totally fine. It actually has made us make very rational, sane decisions. Except at this point at night, I realized that I should just use $1,000 of my own money from our checking account to buy myself the iPhone and get Phyllis to reimburse me afterwards, which I already know is not the best idea, but I figure at this point, I'm already going to be so in the doghouse with Phyllis, I might as well be like up Schitt's Creek with a new iPhone instead of up Schitt's Creek and have an old shitty iPhone. So I put my credit card, my debit card information in, hit submit, and it says success. Congratulations, Phyllis. Shit, I have not changed the name of my account back to Rich Tackenberg. Sure enough, I get an email that says, your order is pending. There's an issue with the order. Call customer service. Great. Now, customer service does not open until 3 a.m. in LA, so I just go to sleep and forget about it until my alarm goes off at 2:56 a.m., and I get up and I call customer service. I give them the order number and I explain it's pending, I need an answer, they ask who they're talking, I explain, and they say, we need to talk to Phyllis. And I'm like, no, I'm an authorized user, doesn't matter, I have to talk to Phyllis. But I have all the information Phyllis has. There's nothing you can ask me that Phyllis would know, that I wouldn't know. It doesn't matter, she's the name on the account, it has to be Phyllis. Well, I cannot call Phyllis at 3 in the morning and ask her to clear this up. So I hang up and I call back and I give the number again and they say, who are they speaking to? And I say, I'm Phyllis. I don't even use a voice. They're like, who are you? I'm Phyllis. Okay, Phyllis. Well, we look it up. Oh, okay, here's the information. The order's pending. Yes, I know that. Well, we don't actually have any information till it's approved or declined. When are you going to know? I don't know. Okay, well, what are the chances that it's going to be approved versus declined? We don't know. What do you know? You told me to call. The only thing that they gave as even possibly helpful information is there's nothing you can do. It's in the system. It's just a lock. Until it approves or declines, there's nothing we can do. And by the way, don't bother going to the Verizon store tomorrow morning because they're just going to look at the same screen we're going to look at. They don't know anything else, which makes total sense. So I go to sleep until my alarm goes off at 5:30 in the morning and I head to the Verizon store and sharpen up because I'm going to figure this out. And I get there, but I get there at 6 o'clock and there's 3 people waiting on one in front of me. They've been waiting for hours for their phones. Fucking idiots, I don't know what they're doing. But I have to wait on the same line because there's no line for pending orders for idiots. So I'm waiting on that line and I'm waiting. And someone comes out and says, hey, by the way, we open at 9 a.m. Internet orders, all other business will be at 9 a.m., but we are going to open at 8 a.m. just for you. We have 5 iPhones ready for sale. And again, I should just wait and see what happens. But now, that's not what the Get It Done guy does. The Get It Done guy gets the phone, and I decide the logical thing is to go on my phone at Bank of America and move $1,000 from my joint savings account with my wife, which is only for emergencies, so I can buy a second iPhone at 8 a.m., and then even if the first iPhone comes through, I can return it, because that makes a ton of sense at this point. I'm getting that hello. So, 3 guys in front of me, and they're all guys. We all go, they go, get the phone, condescending nerd fuck leaves with his thing, the phone. So I go in, give them my information. They're like, great. Oh, there's a problem with your order. What now? Your cell phone is tied to a pending order. We can't do a second order until the first order releases your cell phone number. So now I gotta go back outside and watch some other buy my second phone while I stand there until 9 o'clock when I go in, and the doors open, they look and they say, okay, we're waiting for it to approve or decline. They're trying to push stuff through, and I have to give my credit card and say, look, I'm not Phyllis, and walk them through what happened. They go in the back, and after 10 minutes she comes out and she says, approved! And I'm like, thank God. And so they send me to another person, and he grabs me and he's looking at all my paperwork, and he goes, oh, there's an issue with your order. God. Well, he says, you've been using way too much cellular data. We should move you to a... Get rid of and I rip it out of his hand, but I still thank him and I walk out and I get to my car and I open it up and I'm just so rattled as it's ringing it down. And I know that once I turn this phone on, I am going to have to call Phyllis and explain to her what turned out to be 27 emails from Verizon, 3 text messages, her account being deleted, and fraud suspicion on our credit card. And none of it matters, because as I turn on that phone, no one's complaining to me, no one's making excuses, no one's making my life miserable. It's just hello.
Are you okay now? Did you bring your phone? Okay. Just don't want you to get violent or anything. That's amazing. Wow. But at least it's that and not heroin.
Give it time.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Rich. That was amazing. All right. Our next storyteller is he's right now 2024 Hollywood Fringe Festival Diversity Scholarship recipient. And he is doing a comedic solo-ish show with his 79-year-old Ecuadorian dad, Abel, who's making his performance debut in the show. He's sitting right over there. Bienvenido, señor. Christopher only knows so much Spanish, and Abel knows only so much English. His dad will be commenting as Christopher tells true stories of how they got to know each other later in their lives. They open tomorrow, Father's Day. Happy Father's Day, everybody. Oh, and happy Pride. Look at that. And they have 4 performances this month. All are pay what you can. You can follow Christopher on Instagram, Christopher from Queens, to get ticket info, and the flyers are out in the lobby as well. So check it out, or you can talk to him after the show. Please welcome, for the first time here at Tell It, Christopher Moncayo Torres.
I'm always used to a mic, so this is a first for me. My father and I are at El Jardín de China in Queens, New York, and it's our go-to spot, Latin Szechuan, mixed fusion kind of spot where most of the servers speak way better Spanish than I do. And so we're sitting there, and my father does what he likes to do. Paper placemat, and he loves to do math. He's doing addition, division, and I know what this leads to. This means he's gonna ask me for something. So I put in my order, and my dad puts up his paper placemat like a little kid, like he just wants to show it off to you. And he shows me, and I see 500. And he's like, mijito, necesito, I can't even say it, $500. That's the no sabo kid in me coming out. And he's just like, I need $500, it's gonna really help me out. Me and my dad do this a lot. He asks you for money. My dad is working at this point on his third family. He's like in his 60s. I'm in my 20s. I should explain. I am the youngest of 5, at least that's how I grew up, but technically I'm one of 7. And there might be more that we know of. My dad likes to set up a lot of franchises everywhere he goes. So he needs a lot of help. And I feel bad for him. It's my older dad. By the time him and I got to know each other, he was just working on different stuff. He was around when I was little, but I just don't remember. So at this point, like, we're trying to get to know each other in this point in my life. So he's asking me, and I feel like even though there's a little Christopher inside that's afraid if I say no to him, that he's gonna go away again. So I give him whatever he wants. That's on me. So he's just like, hey, I need this much money. And I'm like, okay, Dad, I'll give this to you, but like, you know, you gotta really be on time and stuff. I give him money all the time, but he pays me back. He just pays me back late. And so I'm like, this time I'm going on this trip away with my then girlfriend. It's my first like trip away with somebody. And we're gonna go to Boston because my girlfriend at the time really wanted to see foliage, it's the fall, and she loved Cheers and all the things that Boston can offer. And I was like, okay, down. Like, she had a regular 9-to-5 job. She paid for everything mostly. Very responsible. I just had like a part-time job at a bank. And so this time I was like, hey, you know what? Let me pay for the hotel. Like, I wanna cover that much. And she's like, okay. So I was telling my dad, I'm like, you can't leave me, you know, in the dark here. Like, you gotta pay me back on time. No, mijito, no te preocupes. So like, again, any Spanish you hear right now is really well rehearsed, by the way. Like, no, no te preocupes, don't worry about it. Te voy a pagar, y te voy a pagar con interest. And I'm like, okay, great, that's nice. He says it all the time. So I give him the money, he understands the stakes. I'm at my job at the bank. For anybody who knows WhatsApp, if you're speaking to somebody and you know they got the message, you'll see the double check. So double check just means that they got it. The blue double check means that they read it. So I just started seeing multiple blue double checks that my father was seeing. And this is the day of the trip. And I'm hitting him up. And I'm like, Papá, ¿dónde estás? ¿Tiene mi dinero? Do you have my money? Hello, Papá. Then you see like missed call, missed call, missed call. He's not answering my calls. My manager's like, Christopher, you bounced. We're near the end of the bank day. And I'm looking at my phone and finally I get a message that says, Mijito, algo pasó, perdóname, pero no tengo su dinero. I'm sorry, something came up. I don't have your money. But I'm gonna pay you back. Remember, you never give me the money, you're just lending it to me. Nunca me das, solo me está prestando. I've heard this for a long time from my pops. Fuck. So, I remember feeling pretty angry. I was upset. But this is what he does. And so, when I'm thinking about my manager's question, I realize I should tell you something. So at the bank, every teller gets a box. And in that box, you get your cash for the day. Your transactions, when she's asking if you balance, just means like, did you go over, did you go under? Did you give maybe money away? Did you lose a couple of dollars? Every day this is the thing. My manager's a mother of 4, and she always, through the glass, was just like, hey, you balanced. Because she just wanted to hear it. If you were balanced, good. She wanted to go home to her kids. Always verbally just check. What she's supposed to do is come around and go through the dollars and cents with you and count it with you and then put it into the computer system and check. She did this all the time as long as I worked at this bank. So when she asked for my balance, I had the most dad thought that I've ever had, which was like, okay, my dad's gonna pay me back. He always pays me back. He just pays me back late. So if I take this money from the bank, I'm not taking from the bank, I'm just borrowing from the bank. So I quickly pocket, took $500 that I needed. And I tell my manager, yeah, I'm balanced. She says, great, I'll be right there. Whatever panic you might be feeling, I also felt too. She comes around and she sees that I'm worried. No, don't worry. I know you gotta go on your trip today. It's gonna be fine. I'll be really quick. It's protocol here that I just have to put for corporate all the dollars and cents on a piece of paper and then I send it to them. Don't worry, I'll be really quick. She thought that's what I was worried about. So she does what she does, and of course she immediately sees, Christopher, you're $500 short. Other tellers come, they count. They notice I'm $500 short. Protocols, personal bankers then double check when this happens. The manager comes. Everyone's in this tight little space and they're all looking at me wondering. And I start looking, I'm like, I don't know what happened. It has to be somewhere here. I'm looking for money and I know where it really is. The manager that I have says, I have to go call corporate. So she goes into her office and there's a big window. And I could see her on the phone and she's making eyes at me and I'm making eyes with her. And I start making eyes at the door. And I start thinking, oh, this is how I'm going to learn Spanish. I'm going to run away to Ecuador. I'll just go see my tia Carlota. I haven't seen her in a while. Olguita, I'll go do some other Ecuadorian things. Like, I'll just go live there. I'll do the immersive thing. That's what I'm going to do. Because I'm not thinking that, like, oh, I'm going to lose my job. I'm going to get arrested. Like, I can't be here right now. And before I can even finish my plans, Christopher, I look and she's waving me over. And I go into the office and she's like, please take a seat. Close the door. And I'm like, why? I sit down and she's looking at me and she slides a piece of paper and she says, I need you to review that and sign it. I'm not going to tell you what bank I worked at. I am going to tell you though, I wore a lot of blue. And you can crack that code if you want to. The point that I bring that up is because that blue turned into navy blue at how much I was sweating and worried. I couldn't even read the piece of paper. I'm sorry, I don't know what does this say. Christopher, I like you. You're a pretty good kid. Besides the fact that you're late all the time. We were thinking maybe you were on the route to personal banker, but I don't think that's happening anymore. So at this redacted bank, you get 3 strikes, but you've gone through all of them now. You never had any before, but now you're on probation. If you are a second late, if you're a penny short in the future, you are fired. Do you understand what I'm telling you? Okay, then great. I need you to sign that. And I grabbed the pen, and before I could sign it, I'm like, what about the money? Corporate wrote it off. That's what I said. I never signed anything faster in my life. Still at the back, and I remember thinking like, oh my God, I can't believe. And before I could walk out, she said, Christopher. And I looked at her and she said, I hope you have a very nice trip. Now, if you know mothers, when they send something like that to you, I like internalized that right into my gut. And I knew that she knew. And I took that all the way to Boston. And I don't know if it was that or Catholic guilt or the mac and cheese at Cheers, but I had the runs really, really bad. All weekend long. And I spent more time in that hotel bathroom than seeing foliage and walking the Freedom Trail than anything else. And my girlfriend was just like, oh my God, you okay? And I'm just in there. When I got better, so I got a jacuzzi for our room because $500. So I put like little candles around and I was just, okay, this is how I'm gonna make it up to my girlfriend. I ruined this trip. It's like our last night there and we go in and what people do, in jacuzzis and we're starting to get, steamy and we're making out and I close my eyes and I'm kissing her and I push her in and suddenly I smell a smell that I kind of know because I have older sisters and it's happened to them too because they have a lot of product in their hair and I open my eyes and my girlfriend's hair is on fire because I had leaned her into the candles. She has a lot of product in her hair. So immediately I just dunk her head under the water. She also said, oh my God. When she came up, what she must have saw was like love in my face and then panic and then attack. She's like, oh my God, this guy took me to Boston to kill me. That's not what my plan was. She got up and she's like, oh my God. And she walks to the bathroom and I'm knocking on the door. I'm like, I'm so sorry. But I'm not apologizing just to her. I'm apologizing for everything. That relationship didn't last too long. But the one that did was this one. So me and Pops finally meet up at El Jardín de China all over again. And he's like, mijito, tengo su dinero. I have your money. And I'm like, great. So my dad likes to pay me back in 5s. I think he does this because he just wants to see, like, look how much money I'm giving you. He also gives money in a very particular way. He snaps dollars every time, very, very obnoxiously. And I'm looking at him do this over and over and over again, and I'm just staring at him. And I have this moment where, you know what? He probably didn't even intend to do that. My dad's not a bad guy when it comes to money. I wish he would prioritize me. But it's just that he's getting pulled by different demands of life. I don't know what it's like to have different families, so sometimes he has to negotiate. He didn't intend to not pay me back. I did not intend to be a bank robber. So as my dad's snapping those dollars and putting it down, I just put my hand down. I'm like, stop. That money's not mine. And I'm like, Papa, I'm looking for the conjugation and the past and the present, whatever. And I'm like, Papa, ese dinero es suyo. This is yours. You can keep it. Because I know in my mind, like, this isn't mine. It's not right. I can't keep this money. And so I slide it to him, and my dad just slaps me in the arm. Oh, mijito, muchísimo gracias. Thank you so much. You know, si Dios, I hope God gives you more and then some. And I'm like, maybe with interest, I guess. And my dad just started tucking his money like into the pocket. And I remember I just said to him in full English, and I was like, I didn't do it for you. And he turned to me, he's like, ¿qué? And I'm like, don't worry about it. Thank you so much.
Don Abel, ¿dijo la verdad? Did he tell the truth? Sí. That's what happens with storytelling, you know? Facts are sometimes the enemies of truth. All right, that was wonderful, thank you. And I'm so glad you're doing this together, the Fringe Festival. That's going to be awesome.
He's making his performance debut at 79.
That's awesome. Never too late. Okay, are you telling or are you?
I'm reading and telling.
Okay, so I'm going to move this back here for our next storyteller. All right, so Sam Shaver is a singer-songwriter with 12 albums and over 200,000 touring miles under her belt. As a storyteller, she's performed with The Moth, UCB, and her own award-winning solo show, Sam Shaver, Life, Death, and Duran Duran, which was wonderful. I saw it. Which premiered at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival, and then it ran in New York and LA. She's currently writing a feature script, which she also plans to direct, about a Scottish grandmother obsessed with a young South African operatic tenor. She'll tell you it's not like Baby Reindeer, unless you want to buy it because you're looking for the next Baby Reindeer, in which case, yes, it's exactly like Baby Reindeer, but funnier. Find all of Sam's music and other ventures at samshaber.com. Wonderful singer-songwriter. She hasn't done this show in a while, but we're so thrilled to have her back. Please welcome the fabulous Sam Shaver.
I should have faded it sooner. Anyway, okay. Olivia Wilde is 26 years old, sculpted and fierce in a lace bra and panties. She's wrapping her long, toned limbs around a stripper pole, her cat eyes piercing out through a black pixie wig as she writhes and pouts to my voice, ringing out in brilliant Dolby surround sound. Only love makes you kill, breaks your legs, breaks your will. I'm in a Stadium AMC movie theater in Times Square. You could say the flagship Stadium AMC theater, watching the movie Butter, which has finally come out in 2012 after an endless year-long delay. It also stars Hugh Jackman, Jennifer Garner, Alicia Silverstone, and Modern Family's Ty Burrell. And you could say it's an ambitious film about butter sculpting competitions, regional political elections, foster child care, and conniving strippers. Cue Olivia Wilde.
And cue me, because my band's song, Harder, Deeper, Faster, has been licensed for this movie as Olivia's theme song. And the driving industrial guitar riff punches in every time Olivia enters the screen. It's not subtle, but it is lucrative. At $15,000, it's more than I've ever been paid for a license before. And the day we got the news that they were using it, the three of us, a dance rock band called The Bashful, jumped up and down in our filthy Brooklyn rehearsal space, high-fiving each other like a bunch of middle school dorks. I wrote Harder, Deeper, Faster about how, in relationships and in my lifelong quest for rock stardom, what you love most in the world can sometimes cause you the greatest pain in the world. And as I sit in the dark, watching Olivia Wilde, who has now pulled her panties down and begun lap dancing on Ty Burrell, I'm feeling that pain. In fact, I am full out sobbing in my seat. I'm not sobbing because in the 2 years since we got this license, the Bashful have broken up, none of us are speaking, and our big $15,000 payout is long since spent. I'm not sobbing because this movie Butter is so convoluted, tonally ambiguous, and patchworked together that even with the stellar cast and the fantastic soundtrack, it's destined to live in complete obscurity. Has anyone here heard of Butter?
No.
No, exactly. Thank you. I am sobbing because an incompetent, abusive middle manager named Rachel has been brought in to oversee the marketing team at my freelance day job, where I write copy for luxury goods online website, firstdibs.com. Rachel, whose name is not really Rachel, has no managerial experience, no marketing experience, and no people skills. Her LinkedIn page, which I've been stalking, shows only one significant prior employment, which is a rug company she started with her husband. And yet she also has a bunch of consultant bullshit about driving brand partnerships and developing communication strategies. And my personal favorite line in her CV, media trained executives and helped them identify individual strategies for communicating their messages clearly and naturally. In short, Rachel got the job because she's college friends with our CMO. This is a woman who does performance reviews in public spaces. So she says things to me in front of my peers like, "Oh, so now I understand, Sam. Actually, what you're good at is rewriting other people's work, not writing original material." For 15 years, I made a full-time living from music, touring and releasing albums as a solo singer-songwriter. But I got sick of playing solo and I wanted to make a harder, deeper, louder sound, so I transformed to an indie rocker and had a full band. And then once I was toting 3 or 4 people around, I couldn't afford to go on the road, let alone make a living from it. So I stayed put in New York and started that dreaded of all occupations, the day job. And this is what landed me at firstdibs.com. And the funny thing is, I like it. I actually sort of love it. We work near the Flatiron Building in Manhattan in beautiful, flowing, high-ceilinged rooms with brushed wood floors and gorgeous, tall windows. We're surrounded by art, neoclassical furniture, and visual decor expertise. And everyone that works here, from the CEO to the cleaning staff, are friendly, funny, and fashionable. There's free yoga Tuesdays and Thursdays, free lunch on Wednesdays, and when it was my birthday just last week, everyone gathered around me and signed a card and sang and gave me a delicious cake and 2 gift cards worth $50 each. FirstDibs.com is the first place I've ever worked where I've actually considered quitting my lifelong quest for rock stardom to have a career in the real world. And then, one day after my birthday, Rachel suddenly appeared, jackhammering her way into our lives. And within 1 week, I am now crying multiple times a day, and she has caused so much stress and demoralization that my entire back has broken out in mysterious, burning, itchy welts the size of Jordan almonds. Last count, there are 24 of them. So I had my apartment inspected for bed bugs. They had the entire First Dibs office inspected and sprayed, but they found nothing because, of course, the bed bug is Rachel. And tonight, I find myself in this giant stadium AMC theater in Times Square, staring at Olivia Wilde's perky boobs and sobbing my head off. Harder, deeper, faster. Harder, deeper, faster. After the movie ends, my husband George and I stand out on 42nd Street. And freed from the confines of the movie theater, I am now sobbing in delirious, breathless hiccups, my eyes frozen saucers of blind angst. George, ever supportive, starts to scream at me. You're quitting that job tomorrow! But I can't, I sob. We don't have any money! George is an out-of-work screenwriter and I'm an indie musician, so we really don't have any money. I don't care, screams George over the taxis. I don't care if we have to put everything on credit cards. You are quitting that job! It takes me 2 weeks, but I do quit firstdibs.com. The welts on my back clear up. And I get a new freelance gig writing copy at Sirius XM Radio, where I hang with DJs and programming directors all day long, so it's better for my music career anyway. And even better yet, 6 months after I quit, Rachel is fired. I know because I'm still stalking her LinkedIn page. Sometimes you learn how to do something right by watching someone else doing it wrong. I'm writing screenplays now, and as part of the prep for this story, I re-watched part of Butter. And I realized that it's still a confusing, tonally ambiguous patchwork mess with big stars and a fantastic soundtrack, but seeing that is actually helping me learn a lot with the project that I'm working on. And from watching Rachel, I've learned how to never treat people and how to recognize when I'm being mistreated myself and get myself out of there as quickly as possible, which is truly valuable because no one should have to suffer the greatest pain in the world for their day job, no matter how many gift cards they give you. But for my music career, I'm willing to chance it because every now and then you hear your own voice singing along as Olivia Wilde strips.
Go to StamShaver.com. This woman writes some shit. Really, really fine stuff. That was wonderful. I'm so glad that they didn't take you off the path. All right, that's our show, ladies and gentlemen. I want to thank you all for being here tonight. Remember to live harder, deeper, and take care of yourself. Come on up here, everybody, and let's have another. Everybody, one more time, so you can give it up for them. Let's have one. So remember, talk to me if you want to have any interest in being in the show, and be sure to sign the mailing list if you're not on it. And let's see, what else can I tell you? Oh yeah, one more thing. Remember, if you have a story to share, don't keep it to yourself.